Hello guys, welcome to the fourth lecture of our Gemini Code Assist course, and in this video I'm going to talk a lot about the CLI, the command line interface Gemini Code Assist tool. Okay. We'll first talk about the prerequisites for CLI, what we need to install the CLI. We've already done this, but I'm just going to go over a quick recap of how do we go about installing the CLI. And then we'll do the installing the CLI. We'll see the auth methods in CLI, which we wanted to do in the last video, but we'll do it here. Okay. And then we'll talk about like what commands and types of commands that are available in CLI and how do we work it with for creating a project inside a directory using the Gemini CLI. Okay. The prerequisites CLI, it's very simple. It works on almost all the operating system, whether it's Windows, Linux or Mac, it works on all of them. You need Node.js version B20, and maybe you can go to Google and you can install it from here, right? So basically if I go here and if you type node install, you will get a lot of links about how to installing Node.js and npm. What the thing that you have to see here is that it should be V20 version or above. Okay, that is the only thing. You also need the npm installation. So once you go through the Node.js installation, you will also see how to go about installing the npm. And how do you verify on the command terminal? Basically on the terminal, you can do something like this, node -v. So this is the node and the version of it. So for me, it's 22 version, which basically satisfies the requirement of having version 20 and above. Then I can also see npm -v. This npm is basically the node package manager that you need. And this also should be there. Okay, so these two are must. Now, how do we go about installing the Google Gemini CLI? How do we go about installing that? So the way is that basically you use this node package manager and then you type install, and when you press -g, this is basically saying that I want this package globally in my system, right? And then you write this command Google and then Gemini and then CLI. Once you press enter, it will install it. I already have it, so I'm not going to go there. And then you can verify this by writing Gemini. If you write Gemini and press enter, if you get something like this, it's basically your Gemini is correctly installed in the system. The CLI is correctly installed in the system. So I'm going to just exit out of this. Okay. So let me go back and let's talk about a few more things. Now let's talk about the auth methods. Okay. So what does this auth method means? Okay. So whenever you're installing the CLI, and what we are doing with CLI is basically we are making requests to the Gemini Code Assist AI and trying to do something with our code, right? Asking requests to set up our project, create a plan, and all those things. Whatever prompts we give to AI, it basically gives the response back. Okay, but it requires some auth methods. What does it mean by auth methods? Basically, who is making requests? Like I'm making the request, who is kind of making this request? So for that, there are two ways. One is Google signing, another way is API key. Let me show you first the Google signing, and this Vertex AI, don't worry about it. We are not going to cover this in our course. Okay. These two are enough if you're an individual developer or a team of small teams. Okay. So let's talk about Google signing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write Gemini again. And then initially you will see here two things. How would you like to authenticate for this project? Okay. So you can do login with Google or you can do use Gemini API key. Let me do the first one, which is login with Google. If I press enter now, so it will take me here. I can click here and then I can click on signing. And basically it will be done once the load is complete. Yeah, you can close this window and return to add your terminal. And basically you can see now that I'm ready to type my commands here. Okay. So this is the first way of signing in or authenticating my my request, or basically identifying that I am the one who is making request to the Gemini AI from the CLI. Okay, this is the one way. Okay, so right now we are signing with our email, or basically Google signing is kind of involved right now, and the other way is via the Gemini API key method, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the AI Studio from where we can get the Gemini API key. So let's go to Google AI Studio. Okay, from here we can get an API key, get that, get API key, and then here, okay, so for creating the API key, you can go to this button here, click on that, create API key. Then basically it's asking select a project from existing Google Cloud project. Let me select anyone. Let's select this one, doesn't matter. and then it will say create API key in existing project. So once the API key is generated, please make sure that you keep it safe somewhere. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, and the way you paste it in terminal is basically you need to set up this environment variable. Okay, so I'm going to go here. So the way you can set up is basically I'm going to set up in my environment file, which is also my JSH profile files. So I'm going to go here and set it up here, right? So basically once I load this, what will happen is every time I load a new terminal, this key will be automatically populated. Okay, so I'm going to here, and then I do pay export Gemini API key is equal to this key. Okay, now let me close this. So now if I do just source or source JSHRC, once I source this file basically would mean that every time the new terminal is starting, it basically loading the environment variable, so stuff whatever return from here. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, and then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do auth. So this auth basically allows me to change the auth method. So /auth, I'll talk about these commands and all what it means. So if I print enter, now what I'm gonna do, I can select this use Gemini API key. Let me just click here and let's see. It's saying that Gemini API key environment variable not found, add that to our environment and try again. Basically this is not loaded because this is the terminal that was already started, right? So what I can do is I can quit from here. Let me do quit like this, right? And if I do a new terminal, now my key is loaded. Now if I do Gemini, and if I now load it, basically it has loaded from our this thing on use Gemini API. Let me show you here. Let me press enter now, and now it has loaded the key from that environment variable which we fed into a JSHRC file. Okay, I'm not going to talk more about that thing, what JSHRC means. You guys should already know that, or you can just do a small research on that or look up on that. Okay, so now my things are ready, or basically what I can do now is I can now authenticate this request using that API key to the Gemini AI, so that we'll know that this is the API key that's kind of making the request. Okay, now let's talk about the commands. There are three types of commands that are available. One is this / thing, which you already saw for the auth thing. Auth is one of those commands. Then there is this @ thing. Basically, it injects the code of files. I'll talk about this. And there is this shell command as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit from here. Yes, you can do quit and then tab and then enter. I'm going to make one directory. Let's call this email validator project. I'm going to go inside this email validator, right? And then let's clear. Now let's run Gemini and let's see some things, right? So what is happening here is it's kind of here. See, it's telling that you are inside this directory. Okay, let's talk about the easy one first, which is the shell one. So if I press this exclamation mark, it will enable the shell mode. Okay, I can do all sort of stuffs like ls -a. So it will list all the things that are here in this directory. I can create a new file, so maybe touch, and all these things we are kind of doing it from inside the Gemini sandbox that it created for us, right? So I can do touch validate email.py file, and let's ls -a again, and we have this file created here, right? So all those shell commands you can do via this exclamation mark. If you click it again, it will exit the shell mode. Okay, so again shell clear and shell clear, or what it is, wait, shell clear. Here we also have a clear the screen conversation history, so we can clear this, and we have this more. We are now looking at a very clean screen, working from a very clean screen here. Okay, so this is that, and let's talk about this / things, right? It basically controls and manage CLI. So basically it gives you tools that you can use to control and manage CLI. Let's talk about this, right? So for example, if I type / and we did the auth one, when we did the auth one, we can change our auth methods, right? So it's basically kind of controlling and doing something around with CLI. Then we have, let's see more what we have. We can have chat feature also. I'll talk about this later. Clear is something that we saw. Then we have copy, no, don't need docs. So basically this can open all the Gemini CLI documentation in your browser. Then directory, editor, extensions, and this one is very interesting, help, right? So if I press help, it gives you all the basically kind of a man page in Linux, right? So basically it tells you about all the commands and the information with it, like what you can do with that. Okay, so let's do clear here, and not gonna go more into this. So let's see if we have something interesting. Help, and MCP is also here. That is interesting. Memory, then privacy, quit. You can quit the CLI from here by /quit. Then themes, tools are also very interesting. It will list all the tools that are available with you in the Gemini CLI. Then we have, let's see, settings. Settings is something that we'll use sometime. And then, yeah, that's it. So these are about the two commands that start with a /. Then if you have add here, then what you can do is you can provide a file to this, right? So basically what it means is this will tell the CLI that, hey, I am trying to do some things and this is the context I have provided to you. Okay. Okay. So if now CLI, if Gemini has to make some changes, it will do either in this file or thinking about it like, okay, this is the context I have been given and now I have to make changes accordingly, whatever you provide here. So basically you can say that change only in this file. So it will do only in this file. Okay. So this is what at means. You can also specify directory with this. So basically at, and if you had some directory here, you can provide that and then basically say that, hey, only make changes in this directory. So this is what at means. Okay. And the last one is the shell command. Okay. So if you want to run shell and do something inside this directory, you can use this shell command. Okay. So these are some important commands that we have in Gemini CLI. And that's a wrap here to how to set up the CLI, how to authenticate with the CLI using two different methods. One is signing and Gemini API key. We'll be using Gemini API key a lot in this project. So make sure you do that and have the API keys copied somewhere or in your environment variables so that our project remain consistent in the later videos as well. So that is it for this video, guys, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.